I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the video, just want to say, major spoiler alert, we are going to be going over everything that happened in episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the final season of The Bad Batch. So if you haven't watched those episodes yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, check out all 3 of those episodes, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the final season of The Bad Batch, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Star Wars!
Star Wars!
Star Wars!
Star Wars!
It's back.
It's back.
Yes.
We have a lot of Star Wars content to actually get into in the coming weeks and months.
Oh, yes, Julie.
You've been like reminding me throughout. Like, what do we have? The Alkali is coming out too.
It's gonna come out in June, baby.
Yeah, we got a lot of Star Wars content on the horizon. So
Can't wait.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. But so we figured there was a 3-episode premiere, and they all flowed very well into each other. So we figured the best way to do this was to, combine the recaps of all 3, but we are going to separate them a little bit. So we're going to talk about, our favorite parts from episode 1, then we'll move on to episode 2, then we'll finish out with episode 3 and predictions for the series moving forward, type of thing. So with that, initial reactions to episode 1 from me. I really enjoy the kind of the back and forth between the different groups. I think Bad Batch really has a good way of doing this, where they give, I think, the right amount of time to kind of set the scene for each group. I've noticed this, throughout, the other seasons too. They've done a very good job of juggling different groups. So I'm really, and not only different heroes, but we also have times where they've been able to juggle what's going on the villain side and stuff like that. I think they do a really good job of kind of giving adequate time to everything. So with having 3 episodes and having this little premiere arc type of thing, I think they gave us kind of the best amount of time for each side. So it kicks off with Omega, and we get kind of a full episode of Omega stuff. And so episode 1 is Omega centric, but I think there's a lot of stuff that Bad Batch has done really well throughout the entirety of the series. And one of them is that. And that's why I really wanted to point it out. And I have little things for the other, instant reactions for the other 2 episodes, but just overall, I do like their ability to juggle different groups and kind of giving enough time to kind of tell the story at the same time. And we know all the events are actually taking place at the exact same time, type of thing. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for episode 1?
Yeah, what I really liked about this first particular episode, like you said, one, it picks up really right where we're leaving off. Right. We get a sense of how much time has passed since the finale because of the, Omega's keeping track of how long she's been kept prisoner. Which one of the little details I do like is how it went from 3 weeks to all of a sudden she's been there for 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's like they're wasting no time, kind of letting all this time pass by. Just saying hey, not a lot happened in between that 5 months. Just know that she's been stuck in this routine for that long, and she's just kind of getting the sense of getting used to what she's doing there. And also kind of her getting to see her day-to-day routine of what she's doing. She's getting blood samples for Nala Se, and of course Nala Se is doing her part in keeping Omega safe by disposing of those blood samples. So that was a really cool touch. And then of course seeing how she's also kind of building allies there. I find the relationship between her and Emery in this episode and also the 3rd episode to be really intriguing. And something for me to look forward to later on in the season. But also the way she's building trust with animals too, like Batcher, the Lurker Hound, which I right away you notice that Batcher's a little bit different from the other Lurker Hound she's not really eating the same thing that they're eating. It's just not really obeying the same way dealers do. And you can just tell and of course it kind of works itself in the story later on when they're going to put her down because the whole domestication thing. But I really like that whole setup. I really like the opening scene where we see the shuttle crash in the forest and how that sets the stage later on as well. Like that they're really good again setting up all these threads that are going to pay off later on, whether it's
Right.
like immediately or down the road and later on the season. So yeah, I just thought it was a really cool way of just seeing how she's adapted to that time since the finale where, and also we're getting more on Tantus too, because we haven't really gotten a lot of stuff on Mount Tantus. And I feel like these first few episodes almost being kind of centered around there was just really intriguing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And that leads right into my takeaway from episode 1. So you want to get to some episode 1 takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick this off just because it led in perfectly. And just like you were saying, I totally I get Omega's a prisoner and stuff like that. But while I'm watching the first episode, all I could think was like, this is just like, I get it. It's multiple weeks, it's multiple months, like the duration of the time type of thing. But it just felt like we're just a glimpse into just a not fun work week. Like I felt like in my head, I'm just like putting a spin on it and being like, we're seeing like all of her mundane tasks. We're seeing like she doesn't have any toys. She's not allowed to have anything. It's just
Yeah, you see her trying to make the best of a shitty situation.
right. But just like I'm in my head, I'm just thinking like, man, the day-to-day activities this is very boring. Just like like you're just doing like little jobs around the lab, and she's talking to her coworkers, and she every once in a while she tries to go and talk to the one person that she actually genuinely is trying to build a friendship with. Crosshair could not even be bothered. Like he's like that coworker that like just is like, just leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, he's over it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that in my head, I was just kind of turning this into like a boring, almost like Office Space, where it was just like a boring workplace and just mundane tasks.
Running through the motions.
Exactly.
A lot of people get complacent.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
That's a complacency for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I could think of during this episode. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways from episode 1?
Yeah, I found that pretty funny too, because I was watching an episode and I was noticing like, man, you just wake up and it's like boom on the same time every single day. You're just doing the same thing. As for me, like I personally get really bored of repetition. Eventually, I find myself seeking new things. Like I like to say I'm a creature of habit, but when I fall into that habit for a little bit too long, I need to change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a really like relatable factor there as far as like being in Omega's shoes in that particular situation. So I thought that was a really cool approach to the story for the first episode of the season. Because it's not a particularly like action heavy episode too. You're just getting a lot of great story content, which I really loved. Which kind of leads me right now into my takeaway, which I really am intrigued every single time that Dr. Hemlock is on screen. And it's really weird when I look at him, he's voiced by the same guy that played like one of the McPoyle brothers, and It's Always Sunny. But he's just like a really like chilling presence. Like when I think of like Empire villains, kind of given like that feeling of terror. Only a few come to mind, really. You got Vader, Emperor, you got and Thrawn, but he's kind of like making his way up there as kind of one of the more terrifying villains. And you can tell because he's got this project that's very important to the Empire or to the Emperor himself, really. But just kind of seeing the way that he negotiates with his prisoners, like Crosshair or Omega, and just kind of like when he notices little things that he can leverage against them, he will use them to his full advantage. And I just think he's a wonderfully written character. And it's going to make seeing him get his comeuppance even sweeter, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know who he actually made me think of, and not the actor or the character that this particular actor plays, but I kept thinking like maybe it was the vocal tone of him in some of in some of I guess scenes / episodes that we watched. It almost seemed like Jeremy Renner, like type of thing, like or like Hawkeye. Like it just seemed like that kind of, I guess, cunning, that kind of like, you know what I mean? Like could have gone either way. Like if he was a good guy, he would have been like a really good strategist kind of good guy type of thing where he could leverage a situation.
Charming, evil person.
Right. Right.
There is almost like because he has like this little bit, okay, you can say charm in his voice where it's just he's very soft spoken. I guess that's what adds to like the scary nature of him.
Right.
But yeah, when someone's very calm, cool, collecting their demeanor with very heinous intentions, there's something to be feared in that man.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So do you want to get to episode 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
Episode 2! All right. So I just have to say that I officially have a new catchphrase for myself.
Defective and effective.
Boom. Perfectly describes the Clone Force 99 right there.
As soon as Wrecker said it, I was like, that's it. New catchphrase for myself. I'm just going to use that when I'm introducing myself to people from now
That's an album name right there.
It is. Yeah. Ooh.
Boom.
Pending.
Don't take it.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, just like I was kind of saying in kind of the opening when I was talking about, you know, getting these 3 episodes like as this arc like opening to the final season, I really enjoy like now, you know, we hit the other side of things. We hit the other part of the team. We have Wrecker and Hunter, and they're kind of like we figure out what they're doing now ever since the events of the end of last season type of thing, and getting caught up to like they're obviously looking for Omega and trying to figure stuff out. And yeah, so I just, like I said when we were talking about the first episode, I really like how we get, you know, the balance, and we can kind of, we're pushing the storylines for all the characters because we know these events are all happening at the same time. And this series does a very good job of kind of, you know, we pushed the Omega storyline to this point, and now we're going to push, you know, the Bad Batch part of it to this point, so that we now the next episode we can take back up where, you know, where Omega was, type of thing. We left off where Omega was, and, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Obviously, I mean, I like Wrecker a lot. I like Hunter a lot. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode, and yeah, I don't want to give away my takeaway before we get your initial reactions to episode 2. But I have some parts that I want to talk about in this episode when we get to takeaways. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for episode 2?
Yeah, this was kind of like, yeah, again, we get the first episode that's kind of centered around the villains and Omega. That's that we get a whole episode just because, and this is the same thing. But now we're catching back up with our what's left of our main crew, right? Because it's really crazy just kind of seeing how much smaller this crew is when you take away just a couple characters. Like, of course, now we no longer have Tech, unfortunately, and then with Omega gone and then Echo leaving, it's just like, wow, there's really just 2 of them left, and it just really, you can see how kind of like alone they are. Again, taking these odd jobs, you know, just grabbing bounties for people, and of course we get a great opening cameo with that queen being played by Angelica Houston, who is just like a pretty legendary actress herself. Most people probably know her as Portia Adams from the Addams Family movies, if you're from our generation, I would say. But just kind of getting, I love when Star Wars can get these caliber of actors and names for their shows that like you wouldn't really expect them. Like you would never expect Angelica Houston to be in the show, like for the Bad Batch. Like, you probably expect them to be more like in a live action TV show or a movie or something like that. But no, they got there for a voice role in like this great animated show. And that leads to like another great cameo, voice cameo we had, which was Julian Dennison, who most people would probably know as the young boy from Hunt for the Wilder People. He also played Rusty in Deadpool 2, probably more recently in people's memories. But he plays one of the voices of I guess the voice of both the young clones that are kind of left stranded on that planet when they're going through it. So I really like that inclusion of that actor in there as well. But yeah, I really just like kind of getting to see where these characters are at and how driven they are to get Omega back. Of course, like this character is very important for a reason, but not just for the reasons that the show is that, but like the personal connection between the characters now, as you just seen growth at the 3 seasons. They truly are like a family, and now they'll do anything to get them back. And I really like how determined Hunter is to get him back, even if he doesn't have the means to do it. He's still going to do whatever he needs to do to get it right. So yeah, this was a really cool, like I would say, return to form, like a original Bad Batch Adventure of the Week style episode, but it's also like furthering what's been going on with them at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You want to get to some episode 2 takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off takeaways for episode 2?
Yeah. So Yeah, you mean kind of have probably the same kind of
Yeah.
style of discussion here, but I really wanted to talk about like the slither vines and how cool I thought just that whole thing and the way they're used throughout the episode. Of course, this movie definitely has some nods to other science fiction franchises, in my opinion. But the main comparison for me off the bat is when they kind of see like the big version of the Slitherverse, like with all the teeth. That reminds me of like the Dune sandworms, of course, and of course the Sarlacc pit and Tatooine, which are all kind of like just they all come from the same family essentially. But just kind of seeing the way they handle that, and then when they blow it up within the belly, that just reminded me a little bit of the Book of Boba Fett when he does the same thing to the
Yeah.
Sarlacc, of course. Just the way that Star Wars is always mirroring other moments in Star Wars is always great, and I just really like when they're showing their love to other franchises as well, because there's a lot of nods to like stuff like Alien in this as well. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's no surprise. We have the rundown in front of us. We were putting the same comments. But yeah, just to follow up what you were talking about, I love how creepy it was when they were, like you were searching the Imperial base
Mhm.
with the vines, and even when they cut the vine off and it like turns into something, and it's just running away.
And do a century, yeah, like
Yeah,
the thing,
the
yeah.
first thing I could think of was like almost like a Resident Evil style video game where
Mhm.
like you always have like stuff around the corner and anything could be turning into something else and like popping out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was getting those kind of vibes the entire time. I was like, I just love that they were able, just like you were saying, nods to other things, but to incorporate it so well into this doesn't feel out of place type of
right.
thing. It's creepy, but it's creepy in like the Bad Batchy way type of thing. So
Yeah.
it was
Like
there.
they of course they would be kind of like face huggers from
Yeah.
Alien at the same time. And I also like the way they kind of incorporated with like how evil the Empire is as well. Cause like we're constantly hearing how like the Empire will do these experiments on stuff like the Slither vines and how these experiments get out of control. And then when
And they
things
just
get
leave
too
them.
crazy, they just leave them. Yeah, exactly. Like the Zillow beasts and stuff like that. It's just like it's so common of a theme for the Empire to do at this point. And it made me wonder a little bit like what I was talking about last episode with the whole like we have the lurker hounds to defend us from like what's out there in the wild, but we don't really get one creature that they all swarm against and later
Yeah.
on. But I have a feeling there's probably something out there that they messed around with, and now they're like, oh, we have to watch out for that too. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see how they'll come back to bite them in the ass again.
Yeah. We can only hope.
Yeah.
But anyway, that leads us perfectly into episode 3. You want to get to episode 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, episode 3, initial reactions. I mean, there's only one thing that I have to react to immediately is, oh shit, the Emperor. Like I literally said that out loud when, when we
And
get
Ian McDiarmid
yeah.
voicing still, which is just like how chef's kiss. Every time I hear that man's voice as the Emperor, I just love it.
I was like, this is not a good day for you to try to escape, Omega. Like, we should not be doing this.
That's exactly what Crosshair said, too. Like, of all days you chose, this is the one.
I was like, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Crosshair, but I'm just like, this is not a good day. Like, but yeah, I mean, this is a solid follow up. Just like I've kind of said in the last 2 initial reactions. We go back again to the Empire side where we have Omega, and we're kind of following up on that story after we left off, and kind of we're pursuing with the rest of the Bad Batch type of thing and what they've been doing. So I think episode 3 was a good follow up. I'm really excited to kind of see what happens next. And I mean, yeah, I they made the best of it. Like of what they had to do. Like, I mean, look, I don't blame Omega because I don't think she woke up that day and was like, yeah, today's the day I'm escaping. She was told that like you need to get out of here before your blood sample, is recognized, because that's why I've been destroying it all this time. So
yeah, things got kicked into overdrive pretty quick when they kind of switched things up on the routine, basically.
Right. I just like how she was going like throughout the whole thing. She was going, I'm improvising. Like,
Love it.
But Rico, what were some of your like instant reactions to episode 3?
Yeah, to me, this was like the strongest of the 3 episodes. Of course, it really dove into a lot, not just like the story of what's going to happen this season, but it just felt more like it served the overall Star Wars lore, of course. And I'll get into that a little bit later, of course. But I just love me a good Prison Break episode at the same time. I I like the way that these people work together to get stuff done in situations where they need to do it. I like the way they tie in threads from the first episode, of course, later on when they're fighting out on the field and they find the crash shuttle and they're using all that. Um, and of course the way that like all these little some of the threads that are started up in the first episode are starting to cross over, like the relationship between Omega and Emery kind of coming to a crossroads, and again, what I think could happen with that. And of course, like again, I just like the way that they kind of threw a little chink in the armor, I would say, for the routine, right? Like, okay, no, I'm going to take your blood today, and then that's when you see like the stuff. Everyone
Yep.
starts firing on all cylinders, basically.
You need to go. You
Yeah,
need to
yeah. It's like,
escape.
okay, yeah, now you need to go. Like, whatever happens from here, like, it's you gotta go. You gotta
Yeah.
go. And then I also like the way that Hemlock kind of uses that to his advantage later on when Emery lets him know, okay, if her blood is compatible with what we need to do, and he goes, stop firing, like let her go. And then so it's like it shows how smart he is as a villain, that like he doesn't need to get this victory right now. He can wait until later on, because he's got what he's already got, has what he needs, basically.
He's playing chess. Like we get
Exactly,
it.
he's
Like the
playing
best
chess.
villains play chess.
Yes, yeah.
We get
It's
it.
just like Thrawn did the same thing, kind of like in Ahsoka. He takes his losses when you need them. Boom, same thing. Like that's the mind of a great villain right there. So yeah, this episode really delivers on a lot of cool things, and it makes me excited for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You want to get to some episode 3 big takeaways?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick this one off, and I just have to say this: like, there were some funny moments that Omega and Crosshair were able to kind of play off of each other, at least funny to me and to you type of thing, because I just like the polar opposites, and how, like, Omega's kind of usually like cheery, like, come on, we're gonna do this, we're gonna escape, we're all going together, and he's like, just forget about me, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, he thinks
anymore.
he deserves what he's getting.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I do like, not only, like you were saying, with it's a prison break, and successfully, I have to say, at least they're away. But this growing friendship, and I'm saying this now, even though I'm sure Crosshair wouldn't consider this any kind of friendship. This growing friendship between Omega and Crosshair, I think, is a very important bridge to getting like the full group back together type of thing, because I think Crosshair had already made his peace with, I don't deserve to be part of this group anymore. I don't deserve to be even like escape type of thing, or anything like that.
He made his bed, now he has to lie in it.
Exactly. But I think this friendship, this growing friendship between Omega and Crosshair,
Family relationship, really.
is I think that's very important to actually pulling Crosshair back onto the team and making him part of like the main team moving forward, like for the rest of the season. I mean, type of thing. So I'm really interested to kind of see how that's going to play together when they do kind of meet up with the rest of the guys, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whole I love the one scene where she's like, "No, none of us deserve to be left behind," basically.
Right.
And that was like, I thought it was a really poignant scene for sure. Yeah, the importance of family kind of like clicking in Crosshair's head, seemingly kind of like it was seeds were planted definitely last season when he sent out that warning to them, and then I really like we saw the growing seeds of like kind of the little bit of respect you have for her back in like the season 1 finale when they were on Camino, in the way that she saved them back then. So I really like they're building off of, again, all these little seeds that they've been planting throughout the entire series. Now we actually get to see them like really to form of like mutual respect for each other. Obviously, like Omega's always had that respect for him, despite everything he's done, but it's had to grow on him, of course. Like, it's that classic like old curmudgeon guy who's got to get used to the little kid, So yeah, it's a great little like kind of back and forth they have for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But what were some of your big takeaways from episode 3?
Okay, so really the big stuff here in this episode has to do with the Emperor and Project Necromancer. This is only our second time really ever hearing about Project Necromancer, which we assume, of course, is like the whole process of bringing him back from the dead that we see later on in episode 9. The last time we saw this mention was actually technically in the future when we're talking about the series, because it was mentioned in The Mandalorian after the Emperor had already passed. Back when Gideon was running that whole Shadow Council, Captain Pelion mentions Project Necromancer being run by General Hux's father at the time. So yeah, For one, it kind of goes to show that this project is taking a long time to really come to fruition because it went from them going to well, I guess we're setting up them like using Omega's blood during this time era to I guess eventually them needing Grogu's blood later on to maybe
Okay.
help. So I'm wondering like what the whole like what her M count in her blood is like attributing to help with this project compared to like a force sensitive being like Grogu later on. Maybe it's like teasing that Omega could be a force sensitive clone. Who knows?
Mm.
But it definitely adds like this level of importance to the character when it's such a personal project to the Emperor, of course. Um, and of course, like she's kind of been treated as this like it's the kind of the main character that they're all protected to begin with, kind of like an 11 in Stranger
Right.
Things or something like that, you know. And the way that she's kind of like she's not really unaltered. She doesn't grow with the rapid rate that other clones do. So there's obviously something to her for that as well. So I'm really glad that we're really getting into the nitty gritty of like her overall importance to the main Star Wars story and what that could possibly mean for her character going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see. I mean, we know this is the final season, so I'm really excited to see where this is going to place her after this,
Right.
and see if maybe we can have the potential of her popping up like years down the line in something else type of
Yeah.
thing.
Because she would
Um,
be Boba's age, so you could cast an older actress to do current
right.
day Omega. It's yeah, there's so much room for this character right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to some predictions?
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
So yeah, really all that stuff involving Project Necromancer is really some of the big stuff I'm looking forward to see pay off throughout the rest of the season. But a kind of on a smaller note is the role of Emery, the other female clone that we've met. I'm very curious to see like what her character arc is going to be throughout this season. I have to imagine she's going to be a big part in them helping to defeat Hemlock in some form. Because like, obviously we see her develop kind of this soft spot for Omega.
Right.
That whole standoff with them and in the Lurker Hound stuff before they run out through Badger's cage is pretty poignant to me. Like she doesn't want to do what she has to do, but of course, like she still does her duty. But I feel like we're seeing this thing where we're getting all these uh like Crosshair and Omega are gone, so we know where they're headed. And so I have to imagine if she gets out there, like what her role could be with everybody in the team, like this big clone family, I would say. But like she almost feels like she would be a solid replacement for Tech in some ways. Like she can make some kind of
Ah.
use. Like she's not a soldier necessarily, but she does have like scientific skills that could be beneficial for the team.
Yeah.
So if that's something they could, if they weren't ending the show already, but it'd be great for a fourth season if like just having her as part of the team. But you just don't know. I want to see what they can make with her story in this final season.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. I didn't really think about her kind of potentially, taking the place of Tech, or not taking the place for Tech, but as a stand-in, as that element of the team, because that's always going to be something that's lacking, is somebody that is kind of that has that kind of brain to think about,
Right. The
that kind of
smarts.
stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, that would be really cool if it did pay off like that.
Yeah, I think it's also the goggles too. Like they're the only two clothes that were wearing like those funny glasses.
It's foreshadowing.
Goggles and glasses. So I'm like, yeah, get the nerds in there, you know. But yeah, that's kind of where my head was going with that particular character.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. The thing I'm looking forward to the most, as far as like predictions moving on, like moving forward, I'm hoping it happens sooner rather than later, is everyone reuniting, like Omega and Crosshair reuniting with Hunter and Wrecker, and even I'm excited to see Echo and Rex, because we know they're coming back to meet up with the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't going to be fast enough. Basically, that's kind of, we got that throwaway line that they were 2 cycles before they could be back, type of thing.
Right.
So I'm really excited to kind of see the team kind of all reunite. I know we're going to get that. I'm just hoping we're not going to get that like mid-season finale. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm really hoping like those how the classic endings of Star Wars movies, you get that classic big group shot of everybody after the victory. I really hope the ending scene of this show is all of these clones on Pabu with like that celebration, because they said they were sending the kids over to Pabu as well. Like,
Yeah.
we have an island that we could send to, so I feel like they're kind of creating like this almost clone sanctuary on this little island plan. That would be like a really cool ending, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're all in like paradise. That would be a fun ending, and they can all live like regular lives.
Yeah. Wanda Sykes is gonna be hanging out with them. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, everybody can hang out. That'd be a good ending. I mean,
These characters deserve a happy ending.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. I was about
Yeah.
to say, like, if any characters deserve to have the final season and the final ending, like the finale, to be like on a super happy note, it's all of these guys.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the season. I feel like we have a lot more to enjoy before we get to the finale. So like, let's put the finale in the future. Like let's just enjoy this season for what we got. But I really can't wait to get these, like, the team and the groups back together and kind of have that and kind of, have them working as a team again, because I really did enjoy having, when we had the core 4 working together. I really liked that. And just to have like the mishmash team come together now would be cool to see them all in action.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the 3-episode premiere of the final season? And how do you think this is all going to end? We already know that this is the final season. Where are these characters going to end up? And who could we see in the future in another Star Wars series or movie even? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.